90. And the aforementioned Blake Vatranian, Realty Pro 100, is with us this morning. He's been in real estate since the Indians got to America. That's even before the colonies were established.
I crossed the Bering Strait with the original indigenous people,
okay,
the Eskimos up in Alaska.
There you go. Yeah. So, what do you see in the market right now?
Well, obviously the inventory is exceptionally tight relative to historical numbers. And,
sure,
they're actually kind of hysterical numbers in the fact that they
hysterical or historic.
Well, they're historically they're historically hysterical because if you had imagined any time in your last 40 years that in a county of 3 million plus people that you'd only have 1,900 and let's say 79 to 92 properties active on the MLS for all of the cities in Orange County, you would have probably laughed me out of the building and said there's no way that will ever happen, and no way you would ever build projections around that number being approximately 20% of a balanced market, meaning where the number of days on the market you could completely sell all the inventory out would typically be, that balanced market would be a good 45 days on the market. Is it still a very hot 70 days on the market, still a hot market? It's unimaginable that this length of time would go by with people sitting in, and I sometimes reference the house and the equivalent of the early days of man in their caves, saying this is where I want to make my final stand, and I'm not going to move up, move out, leave. But I always go back to the beginning of when I really started thinking about how do you build better relationships with clients. It's about not just being transactional. It's about helping them build wealth.
That's a key thing. And we've got a chart. I get a lot of charts sent to me, and this one comes from Real Data Solutions. I love some of their information. Real Data Strategy. Sorry, I better get the name of the company right. Otherwise, they won't send it to me anymore. But we're looking at 2021. There was, it looks like, new homes on the market, 2,038, June of 2021. And if we look at this chart, it's under 1,500 right now. Mm-hmm. So it's a significant deficiency for the amount. And you think about it, during the pandemic, we were adding people.
Yes. Because
we didn't have anything else to do. So now there's a family show, so we're not going to explain that to anybody. So the idea here is, you get more people. You had household formations at 1.9 million every year, and we're not adding any housing, and people aren't selling their houses.
Yeah,
so want to move.
Yeah, so what's happening is the number of people who own their homes without a mortgage is rising dramatically. It's risen 56% in the 8 cities I just measured from 2017 to 2020, the start of 2020.
Why is that important?
Well, because you have all of this trapped equity where the question I always ask anyone in a consultation is, based on your lifestyle, if you want to retire at 65 and maintain your current lifestyle, and your income goes away, and now you're just looking at Social Security plus maybe a 401k. A lot of people believe that their $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 in their 401k plus their equity in their house is going to give them a clear shot at retirement. But the reality is most of them will run out of money in the next 10 to 15 years at the point at which they have no ability to earn any income. And the only way they can
to Walmart as a happy greeter.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate situation,
right? Because
the question that got in my mind that started it was, why are so many people I know who, when they retire, they have to leave Southern California? Why do they go to someplace cheaper to live? Because if you're already living in the idyllic place you want to be your whole life, and then all of a sudden in your formidable years you have to leave and go live somewhere else where you don't know anyone, and you're starting over again at age 65 or 70, that doesn't seem like the ideal exit strategy from the employing years. And I was. Do you
think they're doing it because they want to, or do you think they're doing it because
no one
they want to be with their kids?
And that could be it too. But people haven't been shown the
alternative. Has nothing to do with California policy, though.
Well, there is a lot of that. I'm not going to say that, I mean, when you look and you see that the cost of California is, 40 to 50% higher, and then you see some of the silly things that our government leaders do. The one that I said I would die on, that would be the hill that I die on, is that if they put, regulators on our cars and tell us we can't drive more than 10 miles an hour, which was a bill I saw going through the assembly.
Right.
I said, hey, I'll go get a car that doesn't have electronic programming. And you're not going to
find that anymore.
I don't. I'm sure. I'm sure there'll be a high demand for cars that are pre-computer. The 1960s and 1970s cars that you could put a nice set of gears in the back and overdrive in it, and you could drive over 100 if you wanted to. No, I mean, not that I recommend it, but
we don't want to tell anybody.
Not that I've ever done that, but.
But you look at gas prices at $4.87 here versus Arian, my loan assistant, at $2.94.
Yeah.
Right. So crazy stuff. Continue our conversation. Blake Vatranian, Realty Pro 100. We're chatting about the market. And we started talking a little bit, and then we got sidetracked. Happens to me sometimes. I got these rabbits that go through here, and there's a rabbit, squirrels, something like that. I don't even get that analogy straight. But we've been talking about, why are mortgage rates irrelevant? 25 to 30% of the people. So you were saying about Blake that there's a good number of them just don't have a mortgage.
So about 25 to 35% of each zip code in Orange County, as an example, the properties are owned free and clear without a mortgage. And so those people can sell their property, move rather quickly, and close depending on what they're trying to buy, they could close with no mortgage or a very small mortgage, whether they're right sizing, whether they're moving up. Maybe they're moving out. I talked to our escrow officer the other day, and she said she could do most cash deals in 2 or 3 days, depending on the underlying situation, as long as there's not an association.
To deal with the association or waiting for title or some of those
of the other things, but certainly the parties have the ability. And when I think back on, in 1979, my brother and I bought our first house. So it was a long time ago, but we partnered up because interest rates were 11.1%.
Buy it from Fred Flintstone? Just throw that out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the deed was on stone, a slate rock.
Exactly.
But the from that 1979 to 1981, interest rates went from about 11% to well past 18%. And we still appreciated. We sold that property in 1983, 4.5 years after we bought it. We paid $67,000. We sold it for $93,000, and I realize those are the gross numbers. But we managed about a 38% return on our investment. But it was really, we only put 10% down, so our investment return was actually on
return on cash
was a 380% return on our actual cash.
Sure.
And so what I'm saying is that even though the properties continue to appreciate, the example, we just sold a property in Anaheim Hills that closed last week, came on the market at 1.699. Okay. There were 150 parties or so through the first open house reported to me over the first premiere weekend. And it closed at 1.9 million. And
wow.
That was a property at the start of my career. I would have sold it under 200,000, and I would have been.
Wait, I got to push back on that a little, Blake. I'm going to push back on you.
Yeah.
That area wasn't even there when you started your career.
Well, that's probably true. I think, that would be fair.
Just throw that out there, yeah.
No, it was built in the late 70s.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, but you
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, the equivalent home. The real issue for most people.
Well, the median days on market in that zip code is 7.
Yeah.
And there's a whopping 19 single family homes there.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no inventory, which goes back to what we talked about, is when there's not a lot of inventory, might be a good time to sell.
Well, I think it's the ideal time, because what's going to happen is, when interest rates return to a lower number, that's going to bring many more people in to the market. And I would say it's more difficult, when you're standing there looking to, purchase a home. Do you want to be competing with 25 or 30 other offers? And so we went through that in 2021, 2022, at the start of 2020, 2021, 2022, where people were lined up waiting outside the homes to see them during COVID. And then we ended up with, offers that were driving up the cost, because the what they were saving on the interest, they were looking at their total payment, they could afford to pay more.
Sure.
So that brought more people out into the market because of the attraction of the lower rate. But I look at, if you're making the money, you really have to decide when that house comes on the market, if it really is that important for you to be in that neighborhood, and that property comes on the market and you wait, everything that's tied to your life and your dreams and your ambitions also gets held up and is waiting.
100%. And if you've got a lot of equity in your current property, which if you've owned it more than 2 years, you've got a good amount of equity.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe you can actually take some of that equity and not use it as the down payment, but use it to buy down the interest rate.
Yes.
Now, you got to look at all sides of that, because do you want to buy down the interest rate in an environment like this, where we expected interest rates will drop if we get into the recession that many people think we will? Or is that not the best idea? Is it better for you to stretch a little bit right now and go, maybe keep that cash on the sideline, and when you restructure, then buy down the rate?
Well, and I always look at the people who are forecasting. There's never a price they pay for missing the forecast. Right. So if they're wrong,
the Jim
and you
Doty
put your life on hold, now you're stuck.
Exactly.
So if you have the ability to move now and you can afford it, you really need to look at look at it from both points of view. Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit more. It may not be forever that it'll cost you more, but in reality, if real estate is appreciating, how many asset classes have appreciated consistently, with the exception of 1 or 2 years over a period of 60 years? And real estate is one of them.
Well, I actually shared a chart, Blake. I don't know if you've seen this one, but it goes back to, I think, 1940 something.
Well, you talk about old.
Yeah, it's an old chart. Yeah. And it looks at real estate for every 10 years hence.
Yes.
So 1940 to 1950, 1941 to 1951, and so forth. The only year that in a 10-year period, if I'm doing it off the top of my head, I think it was 2006, was the only year that it wasn't a positive return on a 10-year hold. So real estate's a great asset class to have.
Absolutely. And we always recommend people have a diversified portfolio.
Sure.
I just look at, if you own a $2 million house and you're sitting on $2 million worth of equity, my question is that really your best decision? I'm
going to say it's high risk.
I agree with you.
I say high risk, and I've talked about this many times. And I'm going to say home equity in general is high risk. We're going to talk more with Blake when we come back. Continue our conversation with Blake Vatranian, Realty Pro 100. We were talking before, high risk. Home equity, in my opinion, is extremely high risk. And I'll tell you from a lender's side, then I'm going to ask Blake to share his perspective as well. But from a lender's side, lenders do not lend money to people who need money. Don't, if you lose your job, go and try and get a loan. Doesn't happen. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, try and refinance. Doesn't happen. If you don't need money and you want money, then there's plenty of money out there. So if you've got a house that's free and clear and you fall off the curb and you can't go to work for the next year, or you go play 4 plays at the NFL like Aaron Rodgers did, and then you're off for a year. If you don't have his contract, well, the issue is you're not going to have income. Try and get a loan there. Yeah, you got a lot of equity in your house. Blake talked about in the last segment. So you got $2 million in equity that you can't touch unless you sell it. Is that what you want to do? Give me your ideas, Blake, on the idea of home equity. Risky, not risky, diversification?
Well, there's a reason they call it debt equity. I mean, if you're looking to be comfortable in your retirement, the typical person living in Orange County who has $15,000 to $17,000 a month worth of overhead, which for a family of 4 to 6 people is not an unreasonable number. By the time you pay for the cars, you pay for the private education, all the things you're paying for. By the time, if your lifestyle's in the $200,000 a year range, now you retire and you're going to live on, let's say, $36,000 a year on Social Security. Maybe you have your 401k. Now you're thinking, okay, I've got my real estate. Now what are you going to do? Sell your house, and then your $2 million house will last you approximately 8 years before you start running really low on cash.
You're in trouble.
So now you're in your mid 70s and you're going, now what? And so when I do the presentation, which I'm willing to do for anyone without obligation, is that we talk about in general what it looks like, and then we can get into specifics. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not giving financial advice. I'm giving real estate advice about your retirement and what that could mean to you, so you can have the comfortable life you want to have. The average person ends up with a need of about $8 to $10 million in total asset valuation that is eventually going to be paid down to zero by tenants or whatever process they want to utilize in order to retire comfortably in Orange County, Southern California. Now, when you look at the average home cost at $1.3 million, you turn around, you sell your nice $2 million house. What are you going to do with that money? That's up to you. And I'm not here to advocate that there's only one way to do this. I'm just saying is you got to have a plan. And a lot of people don't have the plan.
Right.
And you got to have it early enough in life where it can actually make a difference. I will tell you, I got off my own plan because in the 1980s, I was already owning I had 11 properties. I had a car collection. And then I decided I wanted to be a real estate operator and build big real estate companies. And there's a difference between investing in people versus investing in yourself. So when you're owning a real estate company, you put the money into the business to support your real estate agents so that they can make a living and that you can advocate for the real estate profession. There are a lot of investors out there who are smarter than me because in their mind, because they went out and they only bought real estate. They never got their license, and they're just an investor buying and selling, flipping houses on their own account. So they don't need a license. But my life is filled in ways of joy and happiness, knowing that lots and lots of real estate agents have taken the ideas and strategies that we've collaborated on. I'm not saying I invented them, but we collaborated on through the years, and we've helped thousands of people out across Southern California gain wealth, which they would never have gotten if we had just kept those ideas to ourselves.
Absolutely. So I want to get into one other topic, Blake, and we don't know none of us have a crystal ball.
No.
Right? There's no guarantees, but we constantly look at history to guide us. So history says we're probably heading into a recession.
Absolutely.
In a recession, real estate values generally go up, mortgage rates generally go down. But you have to throw in one more wrench into this, and not getting political, but what do elections bring for real estate?
So typically, I just did an article the other day that I wrote a blog, and I said in every election year, except for 2008, since 1980, real estate valuations have gone up and the demand for housing has increased.
Wow.
Versus the previous year.
And you're talking about general presidential elections.
Presidential elections, the 4-year cycle.
Okay.
So whether it's a function of political decisions, whether it's a function of like right now the administration is promoting lower mortgage rates for first-time home buyers. If you go on all this, everyone's talking about it, and I'm looking at it and going, okay, so you're going to give someone who needs to buy a $700,000 house in Southern California or a condo a $10,000 tax break and lower the mortgage payment $400 for the first 2 years. Why not just buy down the rate right up front?
Sure.
Why not? The government is the end user of the end buyer of most of these mortgages,
especially for first-time home buyers.
Right. FHAs and they play such a huge role. They could do it right there. They could just say, you know what, we're going to lower the rate for everyone. Why just first-time home buyers? We're going to because
that would sure draw a lot of ire from people if they went and artificially lowered rates like that.
No, but what I'm saying is they're controlling their policy.
You're right.
The Fed is controlling the policy that's causing all this.
Absolutely.
So it's the federal, one arm of the federal government pits itself against the other, and then the other arm of the federal government.
And then they say they're not going to talk to each other.
Yeah, and they're not going to talk to each other. Right, so we just got licensed in Nevada, and California and Nevada don't talk to each other.
So if you look at the Chairman Powell's testimony last week, he basically says, well, we don't comment on fiscal policy.
History will show this guy is one of the biggest blunders in the history. Him and Greenspan did more to damage the housing market than any two federal chairmen in history. And I'll go to my grave being able to explain why, but there's not enough time in this radio show to
Absolutely.
have it.
Yeah, there's a lot of us have that feeling. And I know I've got some friends of mine that are around the country who differ, but hey, you know something? We respectfully debate.
That's what it's all about.
Right? Keyword there, respectfully debate.
Oh, Ron, there are people from the government here to take us away.
Uh-oh. Yeah, well, that's why we keep the office door locked. That's all the time.
We'll be protected.
Yeah, so historically, we're going to see, as far as real estate values, we should be in the next 8 months, being that we're in a long election cycle this year. We should see real estate values appreciate.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll see some interest rate benefits. The idea, and I know Josh already gave me the 1 minute warning, so we're in trouble here because I wanted to ask you one other question.
Okay.
With no inventory available, what value is there in giving a incentive to a buyer?
Well, I think if rates come down, more of those people might decide to unlock their equity and go and purchase something.
Okay.
I also believe that it's up to the real estate profession to advocate to the people who own their properties with all that equity to show them what to do. And one at a time, people will make those decisions, whether it's in their best interest to move now or not move now.
Gotcha.
And I think for some of them, there's fear that they can't, the fear of missing out, that they won't be able to replace their property. They think if they sell their house, they won't be able to have the time to find a new one. And they're not sure what to do next. And there are a lot of agents out there that are just transactional. They're not thinking, how do I help these people build a long-term strategy? Yeah.
Sure.
And so it's an educational process, and it takes a little time, but it's worth the investment.
There you got it. There you go. You've got it from the man who's been doing real estate for more time than many of us are old. And
I appreciate anyone who's still willing to listen to me. Thank you so much.
There you go. And I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us.